Good afternoon. My name is Rebecca Shipley, and I chose to do my presentation on raising children in the digital age. I chose to do my project on this because I am a mother raising children in the digital age. I've definitely done my fair share of research on this over the years because I've gone from being the psycho mom who's, they can't have it during the week and they can only have it on the weekends, to you can get 2 hours a day, to not moderating at all. I have definitely struggled with what is right and wrong when dealing with tech use. So according to a 2015 national survey by Common Sense Media, 53% of children ages 8 to 12 have their own tablet, and 24% have their own smartphone. Among teenagers, 67% have their own smartphone. This was from the American Academy of Pediatrics. And that survey was in 2015. So I'm sure in 2022, those numbers are quite elevated. Parental responsibilities. Prior to technology, it was difficult enough to raise children. Now with coupling in all of this screen time, it's even more difficult. But our ultimate responsibility is it's our job to provide our children with a safe place, to give them food and shelter and clothing, to teach them right from wrong, to love them, to nurture them, be good role models, and to ensure their safety and well-being. Now, on top of all of that, we have to marry in digital usage and model all of those things as well in their digital life. What is a digital native? So a digital native is a term coined by Mark Pinsky in 2001 to describe the generation of people who grew up in the era of ubiquitous technology, including internet and computers. Digital natives are comfortable with technology and their computers at an early age and consider technology to be an integral and necessary part of their lives. And so a digital native is akin to Native Americans in what is now the United States of America prior to the settlers coming. And we, as parents in older generations, we are the settlers, so to speak. These children don't know anything else. They've grown up with devices at their fingertips. And us parents, because we have no background experience to go off of, we are essentially navigating this on the fly. So there are positive effects and negative effects to technology. Some of the positive effects we really got to see during the pandemic, which was the ability to connect with our friends and family. Educational. I mean, we can do so much educationally speaking on our devices. I mean, for goodness sakes, how many people see an encyclopedia anymore? That's where I got all my information from. But now, information is at your fingertips. They're portable. They can keep kids occupied when parents need a moment. Some devices even encourage whole body movement, and Golenkopf talks about this in her video that we watched as a class. Now, there's some negative effects, of course. Some of those are that it causes irritability. It's addicting. It shortens your attention span. It can cause depression and anxiety. It can hinder your ability to go outside and play in the real world. There's predators. It can also disturb sleep. So like I was saying earlier, parenting is already tough enough as it is, and now you have to navigate these really muddy, murky waters. And some parents come at it really tough, and some come at it too easygoing. And then there's others who seem to have a very natural, healthy balance with it. A little bit of background information. We have some brain development from the ages of 3 to 6 years old is vital. Rapidly growing in the frontal lobes. And before that period of time, they were already born with all the cells that they needed. However, it wasn't fully developed due to an immature nervous system. So during this time, their nervous system is strengthening and maturing and growing, and these neural pathways are developing and growing and changing. And all of this information that I'll be discussing did come from my textbook. So the brain development during adolescence it's going through a lot of changes. Anybody that's been around a teenager, I know I have a couple of teens of my own, and I feel like I'm dealing with, or they're in a fog, or I have an alien on my hands. I just don't even understand them sometimes. and their brain is going through a major overhaul. It's like basically rearranging itself and weeding out what's important, what's not important. And that prefrontal cortex is going through a major growth spurt at this point. And that's their decision making and their planning section of their brain and even their emotions. So plasticity. This is how the brain grows and changes based on our experiences. And this is the absolute strongest in childhood. Our brain is ever changing, ever growing based on what we do in life. But when you have a baby and a child, you're working with a blank slate. So the brain, from the way it starts, is going to, the neurons and the pathways are going to light up, and they're going to be engaged based off of every single thing that the baby is doing or is being done to it. So the neurons will come and go based on how it's used and how it's not used. And the more that we do and learn, the neurons and the neural pathways are grown. And of course, the less we do, the more that those will wither away. So based on what we're interacting with, those areas of the brain will become stronger. In the video, Raising Children in the Digital Age, Golenkopf discusses the positive and negative effects of technology use in children. And what I found really interesting was she did not focus as much on the negative effects. She chose to take a more positive view of it. She also, right out the gate, references the past hysteria on media use. So she talks about all of the negative hype that came from TVs and comic books, and she didn't reference this, but I had read somewhere too that, you know, back in the 1800s, people were discussing that, you know, books might be, you know, trashy or cause problems for kids if they're reading too much. So Golenkopf discusses many of these positive attributes for technology with use in children. And one of the things she even mentions too is that she would have been so happy to have a device to hand to her kids so that she could get a little bit of work done or do a little something, or to go out to eat and have a little bit of peace, you know, just by handing off a device in order to help the child stay entertained. She does caution them, while it's good, we also need to have moderate usage. According to the American Academy of Pediatrics, they released guidelines years ago that they were very against children using screens. But now, as time has evolved and they've seen that screens are here to stay, they're taking a little bit more of a moderate approach, that while saying screens are good for use, they also don't want it to be overused. So they amended their guidelines somewhat. And so, like, for children under 18 months old, they said to avoid screen-based media except for video chatting. Like, that was really the only suitable thing that a baby should be doing. And then, of course, from 18 to 24 months, a high-quality program, but you should be watching it with your children. And from 2 to 5 years old, yes, you can be using screens, but again, they're asking you to choose high-quality programming. And really strongly suggesting that you're actively engaged with your child during this time. And then, of course, once the child is 6 years old, kind of knowing that it's a little bit more difficult to moderate that, but yes, if they're going to have screens, that it's important that the parents are providing these consistent time limits on time spent and the types of media. So one of the positive effects one of the positive attributes of technology is video chatting, but there are some effects. So there's some positives, the benefit of seeing family that does not live close to you. You can engage with grandparents or aunts and uncles or even friends or if a parent's out of town, you can talk to them. And that's really exciting for the baby, and the baby does like to do that. However, it can distort the baby's ability to read the adult's gaze, because when you're looking at the screen, you're actually not meeting their gaze like you would if you were in real life. They can't see cues that would help them identify what's going on or what you're looking at or what you're talking about. So the perceptual skills are lost on the baby. At this time, when a baby's brain, if the baby's engaged in it from 0 to 2, their brain is going through rapid growth, and their body is too. Their brains, like I said earlier, are creating neural pathways as they encounter these new experiences and activities minute to minute. And so object permanence, relational skills, perception, even just engaging in adults' attention, that's a skill that they build on. And so it's important that if they're going to be video chatting, that you do it in the most effective way. So one of the skills that babies are building at this time is the joint visual attention. And this is following the direction of another person to the object of their attention. So if I'm talking to the baby and I'm referencing a ball that I see behind them while I'm discussing this with them and I'm talking about it, they can't read the gaze, the visual cues that they need to see that I'm discussing the ball behind them. They don't understand words like behind and stuff. That doesn't mean anything. Out of sight, out of mind. So it is suggested that if a baby is going to be talking on, over FaceTime or video chat, that a parent needs to be sitting with them and helping facilitate the call. And they need to be actively participating and then showing directions and where things are so that they can help engage the baby and it's not lost on the baby. Or it's also not distorting their skill building either. Another effect of digital usage is their brain changes that come along with this. Like I discussed, the brain has got a sense of plasticity. So with all of this, dopamine rush that the children are experiencing because lots of feel-good chemicals are being produced, which is your dopamine rush, and they're chasing their high. When you go to take the devices away, they have lots more tantrums and outbursts because their neural pathways are being pruned in the frontal lobe, which regulates their emotions. ADD, depression, bipolar becomes more prevalent in these children later on. It's difficult. Communication can be difficult for them to navigate because they're plugged into devices too much. It's more of a snacking medium. They have a hard time performing long-term focused tasks. They have to kind of go from short little snippets and they'll move on rapidly, bored quickly. Also, when they're playing games, they're secreting adrenaline and cortisol, which is a stress hormone, which puts their body into a fight or flight mode. And that's very exhausting and fatiguing to these children and really to anybody. When your body is in a constant state of stress like that, it's exhausting. So in retrospect, yes, all these things, there's positives and there's negatives, but the main guideline is while we're raising these children in this digital age, it's important that we realize as parents, we are their role models. More than ever, it is important for us to come alongside our child. We don't need to be just, yes, you want to set firm and consistent boundaries, but you also want to do it where you're taking their feedback in it as well, so you're honoring what their goals are and what they want from it. It's also important that we're modeling moderate tech use. They shouldn't see us glued to our phones and devices all the time. We also have to moderate their usage, and we need to lay out clear expectations and limits. It's important that we remain consistent, firm, and loving, and then we educate them on the effects of the overuse, and then also of the predators and safety issues that come along. We need to participate alongside them, and then we also have to provide plenty of non-screen-related activities for them to engage in and participate in together as a family. So going for a bike ride or a walk or playing board games, those are vital. So there's positive reasons for technology and there's negative reasons for technologies. And it's important that we engage and show them how to engage in a safe way. Moderation is key, and we need to collaborate with older children. As they're really working on their skills of autonomy, it's important that we, collaborate with them. And then we also need to set firm, consistent limits and boundaries. We're not their friends, so we do need to treat this just like any other thing. If we have a curfew at night, we also have on what time I want you to come home, we also have a curfew, so to speak, with our devices. And then that shows them that we love them. That is the end of my presentation. Thank you so much for listening.